friends. Appreciate you hanging out with everybody.
Yo.
We are sports. You all right, Connor? Everything okay?
I just want to give a shout out to James Jones in the chat room here.
Giving you some love.
He said he puts Cinnabon creamer in his pumpkin spice. That's a real man right there.
That's right. That's right. He's not afraid. He is not afraid. Don't be a tip. Don't, you know what, Derek? Don't give into the peer pressure, man. You keep being you.
Can't nobody phase me. Rob, you should know me, man. Nobody phase me. You know what?
Yeah.
I don't, you know me. I don't care what people say about me.
I hear you.
You know this. You
I'm
know,
just making sure. I got your back, dude.
What did Chris Tucker say? And you know this, man. So that's all you have to know.
Gunnar, you got my full support, man. Next time I'm in your neck of the woods, I'm buying you some pumpkin spice coffee, and I'm going to drop it at the crib. All right,
Thank you.
That's right, Twiz. Live your life, D-Gun. That's right. It's what I do.
Come on, man. Come on. That's how we do it. All right. All right. So Eagles. So let me just throw some stuff at you here, Derek, which I found interesting. Let's start with the defense. I'm going to give the defense love first. All right. Versus the run. They are number one, 48.3 yards per game allowed thus far. Number one in the league. Total of 145 yards in the 3 games. Excellent. I mean, you can't do better than that, making a team one-dimensional. And they've done it now for 3 straight weeks against the Vikings, the Bucks, and the Patriots thus far, which is only going to aid that defensive line in 3rd and longs, 3rd and mediums, because eventually, and we know how coordinators are, Derek, they will just get away from things and they start to say, you know what, it's not working. We're going to throw. And, you know, so far, that's what we've seen so far. Terry brings up an interesting point. Will Josh Harris be at the game on Sunday? He needs to get booed. Here's what I would say to that.
Ooh.
I think it's a very interesting question.
Ooh.
All right. Here's my guess. He will be at the game. He will be. Now, if he is smart, he will instruct. I'm guessing the game's on Fox. I think it is. I'm pretty sure it is, actually. I think they have Joe Davis and Moose Johnson, if my memory serves. But anyway, whoever the network is, and I think it's Fox, if I were him, I would instruct them, please no cutaways into the box.
That's right.
That would be a very smart way to go. What would be extremely dumb is for any Sixers player, and I'm talking to you, Joel Embiid, to be in Josh Harris's box, high-fiving, living it up. If something good happens for the Commanders and if they win the game, it would be a really dumb PR move. So,
first of all, yes, the game is on Fox.
Okay.
Secondly, I agree with you. You cannot have a Sixer player, especially with the tension that is surrounding that organization and the outside fan negativity towards what's going on with that organization. You cannot do anything to stoke the flames of the fans' irate nature towards this team.
Yep.
Now, you're right. First of all, if I'm Josh Harris, I demand, don't you dare show a cutaway of me in the box. And especially, now you know what's going to happen. You know what's going to happen. The Jumbotron in the stadium is going to put a shot of him up there somewhere. Now, if I'm Josh Harrison, if I'm in a private suite, I'm not sitting in the front row. I'm being as inconspicuous as possible. Most of those suites have like 3 rows of seats.
Yep.
And as you get to the 3rd row, you notice that the backdrop gets a little darker because the light is more prominent, whether it's the natural sunlight or the floodlights, they're more prominent on the front row.
No question. Just bury yourself deep in the box.
Into the dark.
Yes.
Yeah. Because you can stand up in the box and still see the field.
No question you can. Yep.
So
it goes up. It's like steps for people who haven't been, whatever. But yeah.
Can you imagine if Joel not only is in the box with Harris, but has the audacity to be wearing a Washington Commanders jersey?
Yeah. Like then it becomes, frankly, it becomes mayhem if that happens. Like it's going to be a free for all. I'm telling you right now, it really will.
It's supposed to be, I believe, in the 70s on Sunday at 1 o'clock. So therefore, there's no need to have a jacket on. Now, Joel's 7 foot now. You know, we all know Joel's a little different. He might come walking through the parking lot wearing that thing. Can you imagine subjecting himself, walking through the parking lot? Everybody knows who this 7-foot dude is, and he's wearing a Washington Commanders jersey.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I don't think he would do. I really don't think he would do that. But I would just caution, like, even for guys who maybe are casual football fans, who don't know any better. Hey, let me just show up and I'm going to sit there with you. Just don't do it. Just trust me when I tell you, don't. It will get really ugly in the city. It's the kind of thing the fans take very personally. It really, it's a bad idea. Look, I don't think it'd be the worst thing in the world for Josh Harris not to go to the game. Now, I don't think that's going to happen.
You know what? Owners don't. Visiting owners don't go to every game unless you're Jerry Jones or Robert Kraft. Owners don't always go to the games.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
Now Jeffrey Lurie does, but a lot of times most owners. Now Josh has to be smart enough to understand he's in a very unenviable position here because you own one Philadelphia franchise and you are now the owner of one of their heated rivals. You got to be smart enough. Now, if you're going to do it in Washington, fine. You know, but even there, even going to Washington is dangerous because usually it's a 50-50 split or at the very worst 60-40 in terms of Washington fans / Eagles fans. I can't even tell you how many times I've been in that Washington Stadium and at least half the stadium is a sea of green jerseys.
Right.
You know,
yeah,
so even
no better example than last week.
Yes.
But the other thing I would say is you got away with it to an extent owning the Devils because the Flyers have been so bad and frankly nobody cares right now. I mean, I think like we talked about, I like what they're doing now, but the last 4 or 5 years nobody's cared. So you got away from it.
By the way, their first exhibition game, they lose 6-0 to the Devils.
And it was
score one goal in an exhibition game,
and it was up against the Eagles playing Monday night.
Oh my goodness.
But anyway, I digress off the Flyers, but you're not going to get away. Not in this case. Every eyeball is on you. Every Sixers fan is watching what you do here in this circumstance. And the hell will be rained upon you if you don't act accordingly. And I'm telling you, I know Joel loves Sports Take and watches JAKIB all the time. I'm telling Jojo, this is me and you. Don't do it. Don't do it. All right.
Hey, look, we know Joel, he dances to the beat of a different drummer.
I know.
He's his own man. But somebody's got to get to him and tell him, Joel, we love you like family, but that is not a smart move to walk into to Lincoln Financial Field in an enemy's jersey with an owner who owns the enemy.
Yeah,
you not smart, especially when you consider there's more hate than love towards this Sixers organization right now.
Agreed.
Not a smart move, Joel. Don't do it, bro.
Good question by Terry. Good question. But yeah, I think Josh will be there. I would advise if I were he, I would talk to the network and say, please show Jeffrey Lurie every 2 seconds, but don't show me. Okay.
I like this comment here. Hold up. These things are going fast and furious.
Which one?
Yes.
I'll pull it up.
Barbara Carroll. Josh Harris could go as owner of the Sixers and maybe take Harden with him.
Yeah, right.
That's not good.
Well,
that's not a good idea.
I can pretty sure that one won't be happening. Okay, I'm pretty sure James Harden and Josh aren't going to be sharing a beer watching the football game. I can promise you that.
Let me tell you how sure I am. As long as I'm black, that ain't happening. I'll tell you that now. I'm gonna tell you that right now. That ain't happening.
Yeah, that one I can say with some pretty good certainty that you won't be seeing James and Josh hanging out together at the game. So yes, and hopefully Gunnar gets to stay black. Hopefully. All right. So the run defense, Gunnar. So I mentioned best in football against the run. And in large part because they've invested in those two positions with first rounders. I mean, 2023 or 2022, they take Jordan Davis, 13 overall. Last year at 9 overall, they take Jalen Carter. Years ago, they invested in Fletcher Cox, and that's still paying dividends for them. Milton Williams was a relatively high pick, and the guy is a real nice player. He's not great, but he's a real nice rotational player. So these guys are all playing at a very high level right now for you, and you have a nice mix that you can keep these dudes fresh.
What Jordan Davis and Jalen Carter have shown in 3 games is forcing future opponents to change their scripted plays in terms of the run. There is nowhere to go in the middle. If you notice, a lot of teams like to start with a dive run just to see what they can get and where they can penetrate. That's not happening with these two dudes in the trenches. So now you're forcing them to alter their game planning coming in here. You're going to have to try more stretch runs. You might have success on the perimeter. until they start cheating up a safety or cheating up the linebackers to the line of scrimmage. And when that happens, then you slip the tight end over the middle, or that's when you start hitting them with the deep intermediate shots when they start creeping people up. But you're not running on the middle of this defense. And opposing offensive coordinators have to understand this. And I can't wait to see moving forward when they play some teams that are decent running teams, how they try to attack the interior. Even on the delayed draw runs, you're not finding any running room in the middle because those guys are commanding double teams in the middle, which is allowing other people to shoot gaps and fill gaps. There's no lanes to run. Linebackers shooting gaps, safety coming down shooting gaps. Even the slot corner has the ability to shoot the gap when they know it's a running play. There's nowhere to go in the middle. You're going to have to try the perimeters more than you do the middle of this offense. Can opposing teams find success running on the perimeter? Now, the one team I cannot wait to see to try their style of running is Kansas City.
Right.
Kansas City shocked me the way they pushed the Eagles' D-line off the line of scrimmage.
In that game, you're right. But here's the thing. Jordan Davis wasn't the same player then, and there was no Jalen Carter. You're right. I mean, we have to see it. So what we saw last year, Kansas City had great success. You're right. You are right.
Now, I want to see them try that again this year. I'd be shocked if they have a fraction of success trying it this year. Now, they have the speed and they have the offensive linemen who can get out in space and, perimeter run game. Mm-hmm. That's where I think the Eagles would be more vulnerable when it comes to running against them. You're not running up the middle on this team. I've seen 3 consecutive games, Jalen Carter, Jordan Davis have offensive linemen standing up on one leg and twisting and turning, just trying to slow them down, and they're still being pushed into the backfield.
You know what else you notice, too? In a league where everybody's big, everybody's strong, everybody's fast, when either Jalen Carter or Jordan Davis, there was the one play I remember that I think it was Carter, maybe it was Davis, grabbed a running back, like bear hugged him and slung him down to the ground. It looked like, you were playing around with your little brother when you were kids.
Yeah.
I'm like, this is a grown-ass man that he just slammed to the ground who probably weighs – 240, 250, and is strong as heck. And you just slam this guy down like it was nothing. It just shows you how gigantic and strong these guys are. I mean, it's amazing. So, and they're crazy athletic on top of it. So that's good. Now they have 6 sacks like we talked about before, but I'm sorry, that total's going to get up. You're going to get more productivity out of Reddick. You're going to get more production out of Josh Sweat. You're going to get more out of Brandon Graham. It's just coming. I feel like with all of that, Derek, that's just a matter of time.
Yes, I agree. I agree with you 100%. It's frightening that both of these young men are barely scratching the surface of what's to come. It really is. It's frightening because once they learn what they're supposed to learn from the likes of Fletcher Cox and even the edge rushers like a Brandon Graham helping them out and Hassan Reddick helping them out to see little things and to work on certain things, to improve on certain things, it's going to be nightmare. It's going to be a nightmare.
Agreed.
For opposing offensive lines.
All right. So so point wise, they're ninth in the league, ninth. They're giving up 19.8, which, is a good number. I could see that. I could see them moving up a little bit there and trimming a little bit off of that. But that's where they are. In terms of points allowed. Now, let's go to the other side of the ball, trench-wise, and talk about running it. So they're second in the league in running. They're averaging 185.7 per game, which is second behind Miami.
Good Lord.
Yeah, I know. Well, that's the thing. We think of Miami, and they're just slinging it down the field. Miami also runs it. They were over 300 yards running last week.
Yes. Over 350.
Oh, my God. And they're It's crazy. It's crazy. So they're second in total rushing yards as well. So DeAndre Swift, 308 yards so far this season. He's only second behind McCaffrey. So he's second leading individual runner in the league right now. They've rushed for 200 plus yards consecutive times. They've rushed for 200 yards now 11 times under Nick Sirianni. That's a lot. It's a lot. Yeah. There are right now, so a couple other things. They're tied for 7th in scoring. They're at 28. I think they were like 28.3 last year, which was good for 3rd or 4th. So I think that can improve because you're doing that right now without the passing game being consistent. There's no reason to think they can't get that average up maybe a point, per game and up to about 29, somewhere in that range. And that's what we talked about. Can they be a 30-point per game team? We have to see right now. Some of this is Jalen and Brian Johnson getting on the same page. countering what other teams are doing right now. I don't know that their players are big on, and the coaches are saying we're getting unscouted looks, which means we're seeing things we didn't see last year, and that's fine. But you need to start being able to figure that out, with a counter move.
Absolutely.
And it's not, again, it hasn't fully evolved yet, but we're only 3 weeks in, and who, other than maybe Miami, who do you feel like is fully evolved yet in their offense? Nobody yet.
Not even Kansas City yet.
No.
They're still scratching the surface of what they're going to be. Now they're 2-1, granted,
Right.
And they beat a worthy opponent in Jacksonville, but they're still scratching the surface of what's to come. Outside of Miami, not even Buffalo, although Buffalo has picked up steam. I can't think of another offense, Rob, to be honest.
Yeah. So, I mean, again, the point is they're going to get there. I just think they're too talented not to get there with the passing game. And so when we'll get into Washington and what they do well, what they don't necessarily do well in a minute. But just to let you know, from a passing standpoint, their defense is 13th. So they're okay. They're okay in terms of the passing game. But Washington's 22nd against the run. So you should be able to run the ball. But I wouldn't even be worried, Derek, if Washington's numbers were good against the run, because last week Tampa Bay went in as the number 2 rushing team.
That's right.
And you shredded them with Vita Vea and that entire crew. So I wouldn't worry. I'm not worried about that. Like, I think that's there if you want to tap into it. That's there as far as the running game goes.
Yeah, I agree with you, and I can see this being a ground and pound type game. Brian Johnson, be careful how many passes you throw up, because Washington can't defend the run, but they can rush the passer.
They can get after it. Yep.
They already have 10 QB sacks.
Mm-hmm.
So be careful how many times you put Jalen in harm's way with that pass rush. If you're picking up 6, 7, 8 yards, I run the ball 48 times and throw it 20 times if you have to.
Yep. I'm big. Like, that's another thing. I know, like, some people want to win a certain way and they want it to look a certain way. I don't care. I really don't care how you win it.
Honestly. I don't either.
Like, it's not a beauty contest, man.
No.
Like, at the end of the year, we're not going to look at the standings and say, they won that game because they ran it. Deduct a half a game. It doesn't work that way. So
all I care about, how many wins do they have? How many losses do they have? What seed are they? That's all I care about.
Right. And are they getting better? You know what I mean? I want to see progression in the passing game. Don't get me wrong. I don't want to see it look awful on Sunday, but you win the way you have to win, as far as I'm concerned. I don't really care how it looks.
Look, Rob, we keep talking about the inconsistency between the ground game and the passing game, yet even though it's not where we think it should be and want it to be, they're averaging 28 points a game with an imperfect offense. 28 points a game with an imperfect offense.
Well said. And they're 3-0. It's really all that matters. All right. Well, now, before the season, we always have fun doing our own projections. All right, this is, so-and-so is going to throw for this, and this guy's going to have this many receiving yards, and this guy's going to rush for this, et cetera. Yep. So you're going to be our mathematician, Derek Gunn.
Oh, okay.
Get your toes out, get your fingers ready, get your abacus. Let me give you just some stats of what we have so far. So Jalen Hurts through 3 games, 640 passing yards.
Yep.
3 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, 67 completion percentage, and 84.5 passer rating. Now, pretty easy. I'm no mathematician, but I can project that out right now. We're looking at 17 touchdowns and 17 interceptions. Not what the doctor ordered. Okay,
he's not throwing 17 interceptions.
He's not. And and that, obviously, we had high expectations for him this year, and it's a little bit, a little worrisome with the way it started. I don't think it's him. I don't think the 3 interceptions is who he is. I think these games have been a bit kind of outliers so far. Completion percentage I can live with at 67. I want the passer rating up. I want him to be in the hundreds with that.
Yep.
I figured, Derek, he could get around 4,000 passing yards. He's not, he's way off right now, but I figured, because I thought his rushing attempts would go down, and so far we are seeing that he's not running nearly as much. So what do you have him projected at?
All right, projection wise, based on the numbers of 460 yards passing right now, He's averaging 213.33 passing yards a game. 17 game projection is 36.27, which would be a little bit under what he threw last year, 37.01.
Yeah, actually, it's not that far off yardage. Yeah.
No, it's not that far off, but it's less.
Right.
And we projected he would throw for 4,000 yards. Now, granted, there's going to be some teams that are going to force him to throw the ball up because they're going to stack the line of scrimmage against the run. They're going to force him. So the numbers could go up.
Right.
He's still, 36.27 is still just 300 plus yards away from being at 4,000.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a good possibility he could throw, but I think he'll have more than 17 touchdown passes. He had 22 last year.
Yeah.
He'll have more than 17. He might be around 22, 23 again. But those projections would mean he's not going to be anywhere near the MVP voting. But who cares? I don't care if he ever wins an MVP. If he's consistently getting his team to the conference championship and Super Bowl appearances like Patrick Mahomes,
yeah,
I could care less about him winning the MVP.
I'm with you. I'm with you 100%. And you know what, Derek? I don't think he cares.
He doesn't.
He just wants to win. Like I really, if you think about it from this perspective, I just think that's the way he's wired. Period. Like that's just who he is. Number one. But number two, he got paid.
Yeah,
he got paid. Like he doesn't have to worry about that thing where it's going to be, oh, but look at your stats. No, he's been paid. So none of that stuff is all so secondary. It's not even close.
Yes. Hey, for Jordan, what it comes down to? It don't mean a thing if you ain't got that bling. 100%. That's what it comes down to.
I guarantee you, man, he's thinking a lot more about walking off that field with all that red confetti coming down on him than he is, what his stats are.
No, not red confetti, green confetti, not red.
Well, it was red last year.
I'm looking in the future. I'm not looking in the past.
Okay, anymore. I meant when he walked off in Arizona on that slippery turf. No.
Just rack up the W's, baby.
Well, let's go with a positive here because DeAndre Swift's already at 308 yards. So, all right. I don't know that I projected him to be whatever it would be, 1,700 or something like that, whatever that would project out to be.
So right now he's averaging, and we're taking into consideration he had one carry the first game.
I know it's basically 2 games.
Yeah. So right now over 3 games, he's averaging 15 carries a game. That projects to be 255 carries in the season. I don't see him carrying the ball 255 times.
That's a lot.
He's averaging 102.66 yards per game, which projects to 1,751. I don't think he's going to get close to 1,700 yards because I don't think he's getting 255 carries. I don't see that. That's overusing that young man. You need him to carry you, help you get deep into the playoffs. Now, I don't see that.
I agree with you. All right, so let's just say, and I think we were on the same page. I didn't project anybody to be a 1,000-yard rusher this year.
I didn't either.
I thought they would have spread the wealth a lot more. And again, it's only 3 games, but I will say this: I think he gets to 1,000. I think he gets 1,000.
At this rate, I would agree. I'm shocked that they're not spreading the wealth more. Now, granted, Boston Scott has been in concussion protocol, missed significant time in 2 games. The second game, and of course, he missed all of the third game. They don't even use Rashad Penny. I don't get that. I still don't get that.
He's like a break glass in case of emergency guy now.
The only time he's gotten into a game is when Swift taps his helmet and says he needs a breather.
Right.
That's it. Which means he might get 5 or 6. I can't figure this out for the life of me. Why they're not, utilizing his talents even more so.
Mm-hmm.
So it's coming down to Swift and Gainwell. And Gainwell's not going to get as many touches. The only time Gainwell gets that many touches is if this team has a comfortable lead as they did against Tampa Bay. That's the only time he's getting his volume of touches will go up. Mm-hmm. Outside of that, I think it's quite obvious now based on the last 2 games, Swift is their feature back. And I didn't think going into this season this team would have a so-called feature back. I thought they might have a lead back game to game, but not a feature back. Swift is that feature back.
Yeah, I agree with you. It was the other thing that was telling was with Gainwell healthy, Swift started the last game, right? I don't know how you wouldn't have started him coming off the performance he had against the Minnesota, but anyway. All right, well, let's go AJ Brown, Derek. 20 catches so far, 239 yards, almost 12 yards per catch. He's at 11.9, has not found the end zone yet. So again, 20 for him, 239 and about 12 average for him.
Well, even though he was somewhat pouting after that last game prior to the Tampa Bay game, his projections right now, he's averaging just under 7 catches a game, which projects to 119 catches for a season, which is way up from the 88 catches he had a year ago. His overall receiving numbers right now, 79.6 yards a game, projected at 1360, which would be down from 1496. Hey, look, 1360 is still an outstanding season for a receiver.
Oh, that is excellent.
Any receiver outside of Justin Jefferson and Tyreek Hill, maybe Stephon Diggs, would be extremely happy with 1360 in receiving yard. Okay. So even those numbers, and I said this in our preseason evaluation, some players' numbers could suffer for the overall good of the offense. And AJ's numbers could suffer. You know, he was a go-to guy this past game. He may not be that guy. It could be DeAndre. It could be Goddard. It could be Swift, depending on matchups.
Right.
You know, so he's just going to have to ride that proverbial roller coaster in terms of big games and marginalizing games.
Right.
It's just the way it's going to pan out for this team.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. All right, let's go Devontae. So Devontae so far, 15 catches, 206 yards, 13.7 yards per catch, and he's found the end zone twice. You know, last year he was, I think, pushing right around 1,200 yards.
Yep.
I don't think his yards per catch were as high as 13.7.
No.
And his touchdowns weren't quite as high as AJ's.
No. AJ had 11. He had 7.
Right.
Last year.
Right.
Right now, he's averaging 5 catches a game. You know that's going to go up. So that projects to be 85 catches in a season, which is 10 less than he had last year. His yards per game are coming out to just under 69 a game, which puts him at like 1173, would be slightly down from his 1196. That's not a bad place to be.
No, that's excellent, man. That's excellent.
Not a bad place to be at all.
Yeah, I like that. All right. Goddard, it's a little, look, it's been slow. Let's face it. 11 catches, 63 yards. That's it. No touchdowns for him so far.
His projections right now, based on those numbers, are 68 catches, 357 yards.
All right. That's obviously, this is changing in a big way. This is going to be part of the evolution of the passing game. You're going to see Goddard. I thought they did better with him on Monday night. Yeah. Not great, but better than
where he should be.
Not even close. I mean, he's too good not to utilize him a little bit better here. You know, I think part of what we're still seeing is maybe we thought Jalen was a little bit more
fluid,
advanced in terms of going through his progressions, because it still looks like it's maybe a little bit of a one read, either take off or you know, that's something I think regress is a strong word, but I thought he was better at that last year. I thought we had kind of passed that hurdle, and maybe we haven't yet.
Well, I think it's based on you've played 3 great defensive minds the first 3 games.
Yeah.
And the confusion out there, because like I said, you see him holding the ball longer. You see him floating out. Look at how many times he's floated out of the pocket, hoping somebody would get open and throw the ball out of bounds.
Yeah.
You know, you're not going to play a whole bunch of Belichick's, Brian Flores, and Todd Bowles for the duration of this season. You're going to play, you know, you still got to face Spagnuolo. But Spagnola's defense is basically bend but don't break. Keep everything in front of you if you can. They're not a stout defense, even with Chris Jones back. But although Kansas City's defense has played well the first 3 games.
They've been good. They've improved. You know, and I was impressed. We talked about this. Week 1, they held their own pretty well even without Chris Jones.
Yeah, they did. They only gave up 21 points. And again, you know, 7 of them came on a ricochet that went right through Kadarius Toney's hands. It was a pick 6.
Yeah.
I mean, technically, they only gave up 14 points to Detroit in that first game offensively.
Yep.
You know, so their defense is playing good. And again, the rookies that played all the way through the Super Bowl are now second-year vets.
That's a great point.
So they have a better understanding of their job descriptions now.
Yeah. Like this week, you're facing 2 good defensive minds, Ron Rivera and Jack Del Rio.
Yes.
But for me, Washington beyond the front doesn't have a ton.
No.
That's where they're vulnerable.
They have the number 1 pick playing on the corner on the back end. But you're right. Outside of that front 4, everything else is suspect with that team. Yeah. I mean, Buffalo's offense really exposed that team, defensively.
Yes.
And the Eagles' personnel overall is better than Buffalo's.
Yes.
So the Eagles should have a really good measure in a copycat league. Even though offensive schemes are different, the Eagles should have a very good measure of success against this Washington defense. I'd be shocked if they don't have a good measure of success, both in the run and the pass against this defense.
All right, here's what we're going to do. We're going to get a timeout, and when we come back, we'll dive into those Commanders and look at what's going on there. Certainly, it's a precarious seat that Ron Rivera is sitting on here, having been inherited by Josh Harris. He's got to win. I think he's got to make the playoffs to come back. But we'll talk about them in general. They have a quarterback learning on the fly. They do have a really good. Don't sleep on the defensive line because they are legit. But there's some other areas that are very vulnerable with them. So we'll talk about Washington when we come back. Don't go anywhere. That's Derek Gunn. I'm Rob Ellis. We are Sports Take. Let's talk about Jim Murray and Principal Financial Group, because knowing who to trust with your finances can be a scary proposition. And I was in the front of that line for a very long time. But I can tell you from personal experience that someone I trust with my finances is Jim Murray and Principal Financial Group, whether it's retirement planning, 401k review, insurance review. You might have a small business, right? You're trying to get your employee benefits off the ground. It's another resource that Jim can help you with. The other thing that I love about Jim is he's always there to answer any questions that you have. Hey, I saw this. I'm a little bit confused. What's happening here? Do we need to get off of this? Should we make a move here? And he's always there with the advice, with the knowledge that you need. I've entrusted my IRA, my 401k rollovers with Jim, and I couldn't be any happier. You will be too. Give him a call, 610-996-4751, 610-996-4751, or you can email him, Murray, Murray, .jim@principal.com. That's Murray.jim